Hey, Strategy Simplified, Japheth here. Before we get into today's podcast, I want to share about a new podcast segment we're launching called After Office Hours. In this segment, we're answering listener questions live. If you have a question about breaking into consulting or just anything related to consulting, send it in today to podcast@managementconsulted.com. No question is off the table. You can either write us with your question or send us a voice note. Here's how to do that. Open the voice recorder app on your phone and record a 30 to 60 second audio message with your name, where you're calling in from, and your question. Send that to podcast@managementconsulted.com. We can't wait to hear and answer your question. Now, let's get back to today's episode.
Communication skills. These are the most important skills that you can have. Why? Well, from the beginning of your career to the end, you will be meeting with and talking with executives. Later in your career, you will be an executive. And the earlier in your career that you begin to speak like an executive, the faster you get promoted and the faster you get to be the executive making the decisions in an organization. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm a former Bain consultant. And today I'm going to share with you 3 key communication techniques that will help you speak like an exec. In addition, we're going to talk about nonverbal communication and some of the ways that you can train yourself in communication skills. First of all, let's talk about the 3 techniques that you can focus on to speak and communicate in verbal and nonverbal ways like an executive. The first technique or tool is consensus. Consensus surprises a lot of people because it doesn't feel like a style of communication. But consensus is a communication technique because what it does is take a read on different people's temperatures, on what they care about, what they value, what they prioritize, and it finds a way to build solutions that incorporate the top priorities from a lot of different people into the ultimate solution. Consensus is a major driver of building organizational change. Why? Because when you operate on high-level consensus, a general sense of everyone is moving in the same direction, you're able to decentralize power inside an organization. What are some of the things that torpedo consensus? Well, one of the major things is not understanding other people's priorities and the ways that they like to work. At Management Consulted, one of the things that we do with organizations is train them in the GMC framework, the Ghost, Mouse, Cricket framework. And the framework helps people understand how their colleagues prioritize different skills, different kinds of meeting styles, and different types of communication so you can build more effective consensus inside your organization. If you are the person who can drive consensus, the reason that this is talking like an executive, communication skills like an executive, is that you're able to take not just your singular perspective into account, but you take into perspective the entire organization, and finding a way to get everybody on the same page is incredibly powerful. Now, number 2, this technique is important both when you have consensus and when you don't. Clarity is point number 2. And clarity is kindness. Clarity helps in an organization have people have a sense of where they're going, even if they don't agree. A lack of clarity, again, will torpedo an executive's power inside an organization. Why? Because people will develop their own sense of urgency, their own agendas, and their own missions. But even if they don't agree, knowing where they're headed and why is an incredibly important part of executive communication. You can communicate like an executive even if you're not an executive yet. How do you do that? Well, you demonstrate clarity in the way that you share. Your emails begin with what the point of the email is. Is it to have a meeting? Is it to drive action? Or is it to have somebody leave you alone? There are really only 3 reasons to write emails. Your presentations begin with keys that you want to focus on that are action-oriented. You can be the person inside an organization that drives people not to information, but to transformation. And that creates change that's really powerful inside your organization. At Management Consulted, we have a tool that we use, a training on the pyramid principle, which is incredibly effective. We learned it at Bain, our consultants learned it at McKinsey and at BCG, and it really transformed for us as junior staff members the way that we could speak to and work with and transform organizations with very, very senior people in a short amount of time.
We'll be right back after this quick message. A management consulted storytelling training will increase the clarity and effectiveness of your team's communication. It will empower them to lead with the key takeaway and drive each interaction towards a predefined action. Tired of your endless meetings that never get anything done? Sick of endless presentations that hit you with a punchline at the end? Well, if you're not, your clients are. A storytelling training with Management Consulted will move your teams from being analysts to advisors. If you're ready to drive your team to focus on what is most important, clarify their communication, and motivate action from key stakeholders, reach out today. The link is in the show notes.
The third key communication skill is selling. Why does selling matter? Well, selling has a bad rap. Why? It comes with the connotation of being a used car salesman who sells stuff to people that they don't want at a price that they can't afford. But selling is actually one of the most important, the most underrated, and the most undertrained skills when it comes to communication skills. How is it important and how is it utilized to influence executives? Well, first of all, you want to let executives know that the work that you're doing is important. That involves selling. You want to present in a way that demonstrates what the action is that you want to take. That's also really critical. You want to make sure that people understand that you are the kind of person who has their act together and can and should be left alone inside an organization. Selling is involved with all of these. How do you learn to sell if you didn't have to go door to door knocking on doors and asking people for Girl Scout cookie money, or if you didn't sell used cars as the first step in your career? Well, you need training in that. And at Management Consulted, we train organizations in sales-oriented presentation skills. And again, I'm not talking about how to sell something for revenue. I'm talking about how to sell an idea. In fact, the Harvard Business Review says that in a standard presentation or interaction, only 24% of someone's perception is shaped by how good the content is. What's on your slides, what's in an email, what's on the meeting agenda. 76% is focused on how you deliver. And that's where sales really come in. Ultimately, these three communication skills, if you master them, will enable you both to talk to executives early in your career and to become an exec earlier than you would otherwise. They are, in our mind, some of the most important skills that enable people at places like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG to make effective change in other organizations and then to move on from those positions to become effective leaders inside different organizations across government, nonprofit, and the private sector. On our YouTube channel, we have great videos that both tell and show you how to become a more effective communicator. So make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. In addition, on our email list, we send out information about our free trainings, our corporate trainings, and more effective classes that you can use to become a better communicator. Thanks for joining today, and please join us for more great content in the future. Thanks so much for listening to this episode on communication skills. They are so important. So if you need more training on how to communicate like an executive, we would love to help. Please reach out directly to our team@managementconsulted.com, or you can find us on all social channels and you can reach out there as well. We'd love to help you and or your staff inside an organization become more effective communicators. Thanks again for listening.